Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 80 of the Playoff Push podcast. Welcome back from our short little hiatus in the month of March. We're back for some more content for you guys. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Jace Miner, former player for the University of Oklahoma, Wichita State, and the Frederick Keys. How we doing?
Doing well, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great today. It's great to talk with you. It's great to get the show back on the road after a little time off, per se.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you noticed when we were talking for the few minutes earlier before the episode, but we were talking about how you were born in Lewisville, Texas. Luka Doncic jersey. I try my best to get jerseys that affiliate with my guests in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like since you were a 30-minute drive out of Dallas, this would be a kind of little cool pull. So let's just lead off there. Let's lead off when you were super young before heading into high school ball. What do you think really set the foundation for your baseball career in your life?
Honestly, I started playing, I think, when I was like three. They have a thing down here called blast ball. I'm not really sure if they do it up in Pennsylvania. But it's like literally they'll put a horn on first base, like you're hitting off a tee, and it's like it just teaches kind of the fundamentals of baseball, you know? So I started there, really kind of just from there, just never really put a bat or a glove down from that. It was something I felt like just kind of was running in my blood from the day that I started playing. So just kept going with it. And the cool thing about playing down here is you can play year round.
Hmm.
There's not up in Pennsylvania. Obviously, it's like there's not a good chance you're playing 6 to 8 months a year. It's you're getting what you can basically out of there. So that I think was the cool thing about growing up playing down here a little bit was, it was like no matter even if it was January, February, we were playing a tournament just because, it was still 60 to 70 degrees sometimes here in that time of the month.
You said a horn at first base. Can you expand on that a bit? Like a celebratory, like
No, so it was like there, I don't even know how to explain it. There's like it's like a big old horn and like you step on it and it kind of I'm pretty sure it makes noise. It's been so long since I've played or like seen it. I'm almost
I've
positive.
never heard of this. It's just called blast ball.
Last ball.
What on? Now I'm looking at this mid-show. Fast-paced introductory baseball game for young children. So it's T-ball, but it's a base that hunks when stepped on.
Yep.
That is crazy. I've never even heard of this. It's a foam bat.
Yep.
This is crazy. I've never seen this. I'm going down the
Oh,
rabbit hole.
trust me, I mean, there's Texas adds a lot of different, and I'm not sure who else does it. I've never heard of anyone else really doing blast ball outside of here, but that's where I started. I will say.
Well, I never heard of it, that's for sure. So now
Mhm.
I have something to look up after the show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we are talking about how you moved up here to Pennsylvania for your high school days, playing at Brookville from Louisville. What were your high school days like?
Honestly, high school was definitely. I had a different road. So I was homeschooled seventh through my senior year of high school. And the law in Pennsylvania is that if you're homeschooled, you can play for the nearest high school to you. So I loved being kind of homeschooled in a way because it was like I'd get my schoolwork done around like 10 a.m. And then after that, it was like I could do workouts for sports because I played three sports through my senior year and I played four through my junior year. Through my junior year, I played soccer, basketball, and then I did track and baseball. And then my senior year, I got rid of soccer. So I was always busy. And kind of being able to learn how to time manage my schoolwork and get it done like around that 10:30 mark. And then being able to do my workouts throughout the day before I even had practice. It just set me up for success. So I had a lot of success in all three sports. And just kind of kept going from there. And then obviously, as why I'm here, baseball was the sport that I loved the most.
Yeah, I think they just passed another law that allows you to, if your high school does not have a football team, that you're allowed to play for your local high school now. I think they just passed that right
Yeah.
after my high school tenure, so I was not able to take advantage. But that I do know that that's like a law that happens. And playing
Yeah.
four sports for a school that you don't even like attend in person, what does that do with your connection with your teammates? Do you think it hinders it in any way?
Honestly, I don't think it hinders it as much as people think it does. You know, you're around each other every day. And I mean, obviously, you've played sports, practice is every day. So, you're spending 2 to 3 hours with those guys, and I would still hang out with them, even off the court or off the field, um, and throughout the days or even, on the weekends. So from that standpoint, it was like, yeah, I didn't obviously have the whole school days with them or the classes with them, but at the end of the day I was always with them, 2 to 3 hours working on a certain craft, and and some of them it was even, they were playing multiple sports with me, so it was even more than that. So I don't think it hinders as much as people think it really does in a way, but I obviously, you're spending less time with them than they do with each other.
Yeah, I've always wondered that because, with that being a situation in Pennsylvania, it's pretty, easy to come across with the playing for high school you don't go to. I've always wondered the social impacts of it just because I feel that when you don't go to school with kids, it's very different than when you just play with them, almost as like a rec league baseball team, but it's for the school like level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Because like here in Texas, you have to play in a homeschool league. You're not allowed to play for the high school. If you're not attending that high school, you're not. And I know they're in the middle of making exceptions for that right now. I think it's like a school opts in, they'd be allowed to play for that high school, but it really depends on the ruling that the school wants to have. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, the social life, I really never had a problem with that, just because I was always the cool thing was is like if I had a travel tournament that I needed to go to, I didn't have to miss any school for it. I just took it with me. So,
Whoa.
so it was like any weekend tournaments that, I was playing in North Carolina or like Florida or something. I'd take my schoolwork with me and I'd go down, even a day or two early to get used to it and also get my schoolwork done, wherever we were at.
That's crazy. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, so it created traveling so much easier because it was an online program called Alpha and Omega. I'm pretty sure they switched the name to Ignite now. But like it was all on computers. So wherever I took my computer, as long as I had Wi-Fi, like I could get my schoolwork done in, whatever state I was in.
That's fire. That's really useful, especially with that whole traveling lifestyle of travel ball.
Yeah, yeah, and travel baseball in high school is a no joke.
Yeah, not at all. And it clearly panned out. Committed to Wichita State, a perfect game grade of 8. What do you think that transition was like leaving that high school baseball scene and then flipping to being the number one ranked lefty and then heading to college ball?
It's hard to put into words the difference of levels there are in this game. It's one of those things where you can be the best pitcher in high school. Well, here's the thing: the college team you're going to, everyone was in the same boat. It's not a shark in a small pond anymore. It's everybody's a shark. There's a reason everyone's there. So I remember in my first couple outings at Wichita State in the fall, like we were doing inter squads. I got hit and I got hit pretty good. But it helped me develop in a way. So without those kind of the failures of like understanding like okay, yeah, I was really good in high school, but there's another level to this, and there's even more levels above this. Um, it humbles you. It allows you, to get better and kind of develop from those failures and turn them into success.
Something that I noticed when I was researching your college career, and I was never going to wear a jersey of his to begin with. But in 2023, not only did you play with, but you outdueled Payton Tolle by a pretty wide margin. You had a 2.05 ERA that year compared to Peyton's 4.62. Obviously, Payton in the majors now. Did you know it at the time, and did you see him as a guy of that caliber?
As a team, honestly, we all knew Tully was something special, but we didn't. What's crazy is we didn't know if it was going to be with the arm or if it was going to be with his bat. Because Tully at that point was still a two-way hitter, was a hitter and a pitcher, and that guy we'd go play at Oklahoma State, and he was putting balls 400 feet over the fence off them. So it was like seeing where he is now. Like I love Tully. Like I'm super excited for him. I love watching him right now. Seeing him do it pitching, I'd love to see what he would have done at the hitting standpoint if he would have kept holding on to that. But um, Tully was always something special. He was always kind of the guy that he was always a glue guy as well. In the
Mm.
locker room, keeping the team together. And always just a guy that was just fun and jokes. And then when those white lines came and he was inside of them, it was a total different guy.
Yeah, you had the lowest ERA on that team. Next best was a 2.55 in 14 games started compared to your 24 games out of the pen. What do you think it was that year that clicked for you?
Honestly, it was mindset. Everyone thinks kind of the game of baseball, even any game in general, is a lot of the physical side of it. And they always forget about the mindset of it. My freshman year, I believe I finished like a five something, which, not bad, not great. But I was really not accepting failure the right way in that standpoint. And my sophomore year, like my sophomore year, my first batter I faced was at Utah Tech, I remember, and he took me, I think, at 400 feet over the fence on my first pitch of that year. So to say that, the 205 ERA part of it compared to like the first batter I had, obviously, of that year is two total different things. The biggest thing was just the mindset and also just, letting my coaches develop me as well. I had a pitch coach, Mike Pelfrey, he pitched 12 or 13 years in the majors. Lauren Hibbs, who was a good head coach, and, even going on from there that they knew how to develop players.
And then you went over to Oklahoma for a year in 2024. Do you want to just go into that, transferring into what was then the Big 12, and just talk about your time at such a dominant baseball program?
I'll start with the portal. That portal is it's different. It's definitely a fun but stressful time. Like you said, I came out my sophomore year with a good ERA, good amount of innings. And it was like those first couple weeks in that portal, I was up at 7 a.m. getting ready to field phone calls at 8. And then there was times I was up till 11 to even midnight, still fielding more phone calls in, from coaches trying to figure out the next path. Uh, I went on a visit to Oklahoma. I went on a visit to Florida State, but went to Oklahoma 2 hours from where I live now. So it was the proximity to home, and then it was also just that coaching staff. Having just kind of a really good background with pitchers and all that stuff. So went there, and it's the same thing. There's levels to it. Kind of what I said earlier. When I stepped in there, we had a lot of athletes, a lot of guys that knew their craft in a way. So it went, I really enjoyed the time I had there. The school's amazing. Wichita State doesn't have football. So, going to OU and go see some football games as well was eye-opening as well. But the baseball was nuts. I will say that. Getting to see kind of that Big 12 era, and obviously now they're SEC, but getting to just see that from the outside and now being able to see it from the inside was definitely a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Another pitcher you shared that diamond with in Oklahoma was Ryan Lambert, now in the AAA team for the Mets up in Syracuse. But what was it like about him being a guy that was drafted in the eighth round and then coming all the way up to AAA in just about 2 years?
So Lambert was actually my roommate for a while.
Whoa.
Yeah, so me and Lambert, actually, I love Lambert, but that dude was something. I know that they put a post out about how he used to eat like a crazy amount of like raw eggs, like every day. And I was like, if they ever ask me this, I'm gonna confirm it because I did see this with my own eyes. And we had a good time. He was one of the hardest working dudes I've ever been around. As you can see, if you see him, step on a mound, he's a big, strong kid with, velo that comes and destroys hitters in a way with a wipeout slider, curveball, whatever it is. So it was cool. It was definitely cool being around those type of guys as well. Like you said, with Tolle, kind of around with, Lambert, and seeing, in a way, like two different personalities get picked up in that route.
For Wichita State, which you ended up going back to after that 2024 season, something about the portal is you see guys start a program, they leave for a program otherwise, and then they return it back to the original team. What was it like transferring back to Wichita State after the Oklahoma tenure?
So one of the big things about mine too is after my sophomore year, Wichita State, our entire staff was fired. So that was the main reason. Like we had, I think, 30 guys that entered the portal after that year. It was like it was called a mass exodus of the team. So after I entered the portal again after OU, as much as it was like I'd been to Wichita State, I'd never been around those coaches, the new one or anything. So, I kind of went with them in a way towards of like, okay, this is still, as much as I was there for 2 years, this is a new school because it's a new staff. So I was really looking into it a lot, and trying to transfer after your junior year is hard because not a lot of schools will take guys that can only have 1 year of eligibility left because most schools will. I think it's. I think the rule is like most schools you have to be there for 2 years to graduate. So if you're going in your junior year or your senior year and only playing 1 year there, you're going to go behind in school. So I was looking at it from another standpoint. I had a really good offer from them to go back there, and then on top of that, all the credits I've been doing from Wichita State, and then the 1 year at OU, I wasn't going to lose any. So it was still setting me up in the right direction for school as well. Compared to also, I was like, okay, I know this area, I know this stadium, all that. The only thing I got to get used to is this coaching staff, which I did end up, loving that coaching staff. Didn't have the year I wanted to, but that's part of the game. Honestly, we had the talent. We had the talent on that team. It was there. It just never got put together. That's not really on anybody. My sophomore year team. I mean, that is to this day the most talented team I ever played on, and we didn't exactly get to put it all together. And that's the hard part about baseball. Sometimes is even you could have the best team on the field, and it doesn't matter. If it doesn't get put all together, it doesn't mesh the right way, it's gonna move on to the next team.
Yeah, stuff just happens. Look at the Mets last year. The exact
Yep.
same situation. Very talented team, couldn't even make the playoffs. And then we head to your most recent baseball chucking opportunity in the Frederick Keys of the MLB Draft League, a place that I hold very dear to my heart after working this past season with Trenton and State College. You diced 7 games, 1.53 ERA over 17.2 innings. How do you jump to that?
Honestly, like, it's the same thing, like kind of mindset, coaching staff. Jimmy Nelson, Preston Wilson, up there, two coaches that I love. To this day, I'll talk to sometimes. Preston will sometimes even still send me some Instagram reels that I laugh at. Um, but on all serious note, I would not have had that good of a season with them without those two helping me develop in a way. As I switched this summer to a full kind of like sidearm slot. So it was a full new slot, full new like kind of arsenal away from there. And they just really helped me understand kind of my metrics towards it and just helped me understand like, listen, if you put this where you need to put it in the zone, hitters aren't going to hit it. And one of the best mindsets I got is hitters suck. We just got to put them in the zone. Hitters suck.
Were there any hitters in the draft league that gave you a little bit of competition, like a guy that you thought was really good?
Oh man. Honestly, I think my favorite hitters I watched in that league was Cam Hassert, which was actually on our team,
Ooh,
and he got picked up by the Rockies. That was pretty good. There was that whole Black Bears lineup down in West Virginia. They mashed. They
they're
mashed.
scary.
They would come up. Which person like my last start of the year was against them, and I was looking forward to it because I love that kind of stuff. And the crazy part about it was one of my old teammates and roommate for a little while was starting for the Black Bears at that point. So we had a real good like pitchers duel.
And they were such a good team, West Virginia. Like they were ready to just crush everybody.
Oh yeah, they were just full on, very stout. Knew how to play. Knew like had great starters, great arms out of the pen. And then you saw the averages, you saw like the numbers from the lineup, and it was like, oof, this team's got all of it.
Exactly.
And the spikes, honestly, are right there behind it. There's a left, I can't remember his name right now. There's a left-handed hitter that I faced. And like I said, like I'm a lefty kind of sidearm slot. Lefties have always been at that point from that slot. Like I love facing a lefty. And I remember I threw a slider to one of them, and he took me I think 450, like dead center. And
Holy cow.
I hadn't seen someone like a lefty kind of do that to me yet. And I remember just like watching it go over the fence, and I was like, wow, that dude's
That
legit.
that just happened.
Yeah, that just happened. I need a new baseball now.
That's crazy. And I do have one more question for you to finish it off. I'm going to take a
Yeah.
little tiny break just because I feel like this is a total full circle moment. I know you don't know this. There's no reason you would know this. However, you are episode 80. Go 50 episodes earlier. Jimmy Nelson, episode 30.
Nah.
So exactly at the half century mark since I had him on the show, February 18th, 2025.
Shout out Jimmy Nelson.
Now you're here. How about that?
Shout out Jimmy Nelson. Absolutely.
No, that's my guy. Talked with him whenever you guys came to Trenton. It was a very, very fun time always with him. I was the one who broke the news of Corbin Burns going down when he was on the field. I was right next to him. I was like, hey Jimmy, someone that you played with went down. He's like, it's Corbin, isn't it? I'm like, yeah.
No way. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
we were behind the cage in Trenton, and I broke the news to him. It was very obviously it's sad Corbin went down, but it was very funny that he immediately knew I was talking about him.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Small world.
exactly. And now heading into wherever you go from here, what's the goal? What are you doing to continue pushing yourself forward?
So I'm going to be playing with the Cleveland Railroaders this season in the American
Mm.
Association. The goal is just to keep going and try to get as high up as I can. I want to obviously still play in the show one day. And that's the goal. That's been the goal since I've started playing. Is there different windy roads that I'm taking right now that I wasn't prepared for? Yeah, but what's a good story without those roads? So I'm still blessed, excited for this next season, and just kind of keep pushing and keep growing in a way and developing.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Any final words?
I appreciate you having me on here. Definitely enjoyed talking to you and love the Mavs jersey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it here. Episode 80 of the Playoff Push podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and thank you to Nathan Ramachandra for setting this episode up. That's going to do it here. Have a great rest of your day.